Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ad Project Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Scheller from Ad Advance, and today I'm joined by Scott Needham. Scott, awesome to have you on the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of fun things that we can talk about. Before we get into that, just give us a quick background. Love to hear people's stories, kind of how they got into the space. I don't know, walk us through that background.
All right, go straight into it. So I got a master's in computer engineering. I thought I was going to be the next engineer at Google. I failed the interview that they flew me out for, but you know what? I actually don't feel bad about that at all because it made me take an opportunity to start selling on Amazon in 2013 with my brother. He was selling, and I was like, okay, let's build automation. And all the tools I built were like internal, just to do operations. We scaled that to 65 million. That was our peak year.
That's awesome.
But it was a reseller business, a lot of wholesale relationships, some exclusive. So we did some advertising, Little did I know it was going to be what it is today. Totally didn't see it becoming like a cottage industry with very sophisticated services and tools. Had I known that, I would have built PackView.
Sure.
that would have been a good smart play. But we kept selling, and actually, a reseller business, you can make money, but you probably can't exit that business.
Sure. So
actually did a full liquidation. Right now, we are getting close to the end of our liquidation of that business. And then, obviously I'm going to pivot. And since I know Amazon, I actually bought a private label business that does about $3 million a year. And then I built a software tool called SmartScout, does market research for, Amazon brands.
Sure. That's awesome. And I love that you got your start as a seller in Amazon. So I got my start the same way. 2014, started selling. So I was doing retail ARB from the start, then got into private label.
That's pretty early, 2014.
Yeah. And then started running advertising for myself. At the time it was pretty fancy where you had sponsored products, auto. And if you want to get really fancy, you do like keywords in the manual campaigns. And started building out my own tools. And that's kind of where Ad Advance got started too.
Okay. And I actually have a question for you. Is Ad Advance did the tool begat the agency, or did the agency be like, okay, let's build some tools so we can do this job better?
Yeah. So we started with the tool. And so, it kind of took a different approach where Matt and I'm a co-founder. We spent 2 years developing the software and the tools before we ever scaled the agency, where people usually go the other way. And I feel like it's helped us out just with our DNA being based off of all right, let's build the stuff that does the heavy lifting for us. And then we can really provide the strategy and the intuition and those pieces that go around it. Yeah.
No, it puts you into a unique space. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to. I could turn the question. I actually have had Matt on my podcast.
I remember that. That was a couple of years ago, right?
And it was because you guys posted some really interesting articles on Reddit.
That's awesome. We had to get back up on Reddit. Yeah. We haven't been doing as much on Reddit lately, but yeah, we got to get back there. Hey, so one reason I wanted to have you on, there's been a lot of things happening lately in the AI space. And with the computer background, I wanted to get your take on AI, where it's going, how you can leverage it, kind of general thoughts. I'm going to leave it wide open. Take it away from whatever you want to talk about.
My first inclination in trends like this is to push away and be like, this is the next 3D printer anyone there's these tech things that we get fixed to and don't actually turn out to be what the promise was, or virtual reality is probably the last one, where everyone wanted to invest in it, and Microsoft just announced they're cutting that division.
Sure.
So if you've used ChatGPT, then you probably already know a lot of what it's about, but it's just really smart, and it's not going to change. I don't predict like Skynet next year. It's not going to like take over the world, but it's also not nothing. It is very akin to like a calculator. Right now, it is a calculator. It can make a bad writer better. It can make an average writer faster. And like I have written articles that are ranking on Google using ChatGPT.
Sure.
Like one of them's getting like 5 clicks a day, and I had the knowledge to write that article. I just was able to build a lot of paragraphs twice as fast, and so it wasn't like cumbersome to me. Then there's the obvious. So that's like the story. I mean, like ChatGPT is kind of, it threatens Google's business a little bit in that like it's a search engine. People can ask it questions and it gets answers. It's passed the bar exam. It's, students are using it to cheat. It does a lot of things. But for Amazon sellers, we have to create a lot of copy, a lot of content to appeal to an audience or whatever. And for some good brands, that actually is a differentiator. Their messaging,
Sure.
Liquid Death is a great example of someone just like using a story to like change how people think about it. Turns out their Amazon listings are actually kind of bad. They don't have their story in the bullet points. Like it's a slam dunk,
Sure.
But they don't. I am working on a tool that's kind of like just for writing Amazon listings. You don't need a tool. ChatGPT works by itself.
Sure.
We're just bringing in SEO. So I already said a ton of things.
Yeah.
I do actually have a question for you because in advertising on Amazon, there's creatives
Sure.
that are very like you have to bring a creative.
Yep.
Even sometimes it's like you just write. I think if it's a brand, sponsored brand, that you say like
Yep.
select these products, choose these umbrellas.
Yep.
Yeah, like one quick line.
Yeah.
Is there more than just that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of ways we can use it. And just for those people who aren't familiar with ChatGPT, so it is currently open for everybody. They're having a lot of like server limitations because it's getting so much attention. But essentially what it is it's just a spot where you can input text. And so, for instance, you can say, write me a product listing with 5 bullet points for this product. And then you could specify a couple attributes if you want to get specific.
Yeah.
And it will produce some very solidly written points for you.
Do you know where it gets really good?
Where?
Is you take that result and you say like, okay, now do this targeting a female.
Yep.
Okay, now do this in a country western voice. And like the understanding of how to apply messaging to different audiences, it's cool. Like you can say, okay, do this now. Be witty,
Yep.
And it may not be like really funny, but you could see like it gives you the framework to start.
Sure. Yeah,
that's
there's other instances like, you can copy in a full article and you can say, summarize this article in 3 sentences. And then it can produce it. And then you can respond back and you could say, write it up a little less formal. Or you can kind of direct it to fine tune it as you go. Or write this up and emphasize this key point. It's blown me away just even getting into very specific terms. Like we've had fun just messing around with it. And like somebody would respond to a comment on one of the posts I did on LinkedIn. And we haven't used the response, but we put it in and it was referencing ACOS and tacos. And it had this really fine-tuned response, kind of giving the like key how these two variables interact too, which is wild. And so we're just kind of scratching the surface on how we can use it. Like you said, like writing to like different headlines and different creatives for ad copy. Like you can get so many different ideas. And so there's limitless ways that you can use it. We're continually brainstorming on how we can put this into practice.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you've thought of this or not, but like if you have your own API integration, like your agency does,
Yeah.
you can build a tool that says like, okay, this type of ad actually has a creative tag. Let's A/B test 10 options,
Yep.
feed AI into it like that.
Yep.
And like, I mean, that's a great story.
These are the type of items that we're starting to explore too, just because like within our database, we have billions of data points. And so we know the key ways that people are finding products. And so you can use that and you can feed that into, and like ChatGPT, they're going to be opening up their API soon. So you can like systematically go through and generate these different pieces too. So yeah, it is
there's certain parts of their API are already open for developers.
Oh, sure.
That's like that. Some tools are going on. I think it's some of the latest models that they use.
Okay.
I think that like the best one is currently just on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But like I think there's like a 3.0 version. I don't actually fully know the history, but all I know is
I think they're to 3.5, and then I've heard that 4 is coming out, and 3 had 100 billion parameters or 175 billion if I remember right, and 4 is going to like 100 trillion. So it's just going to keep getting better and better, which is wild.
And Microsoft's tech bill is going to get bigger and bigger.
Yep.
It apparently costs a few $1 million a day to run.
Sure. And I think so. There's people like us who love trying this stuff out and tinkering and everything. There's been other people who hear about this new advance in AI and they say, oh yeah, we've been hearing about AI forever. And there's been so many different ways that AI has come out or been marketed recently. Give me your take on AI and the term AI as a whole.
So yeah, there's different fields of AI. It's kind of like one that we probably hear and use the most thus far is actually like machine learning.
Sure.
That's the one that applies to like advertising, because what they're talking about machines, like they learn by like seeing what inputs are likely to like get certain outputs.
Yep.
And
yeah, like as an instance, like we use, we have our Streamline system, which uses Amazon Marketing Stream hourly data. And we have machine learning models that use previous conversion rate trends and other inputs, and then predicts future trends based off of that, and then optimizes the bid continuously. Like, so at 7 a.m. on a Monday, your bid's going to be higher than 9 p.m. on a Wednesday, because conversion rate tends to be higher. So that's an instance of machine learning that we use, which can be technically classified into AI, but it's not deep learning or neural networks or anything else like that we see a lot of these other cool pieces doing.
I'm not an expert, but I do know sometimes people use that term as like marketing. It's like, they're saying, like they may just be using what we would think is just like an algorithm, if this, then that, if this, then like, like just conditional. And not like like a neural network or something that computer vision uses machine learning. That's like real AI. What I would describe as like from a computer science background, that's AI.
Sure.
Whereas if you're using logic on conditional statements, not AI. So I love slamming. I mean, like it's a buzzword that I hear too much, but it's changed, like within the last 3 months, it's changed. And Amazon sellers absolutely in multiple facets of their business can use it. Even if you want to build a blog around your brand, like, you should probably consider doing it.
Sure. Yeah. And so key lesson from maybe nerdier people like us is when somebody markets AI, ask what they're actually doing. Because a lot of people, what I've seen is that when they're marketing AI, it is just like algorithms. So it's like Excel formulas. So it's bid algorithms. I don't consider that AI either. When we talk about our machine learning, we talk about machine learning just so we're not talking about AI in general, because it's such a loose term and people have come to like just get turned off by it because so many people have marketed it and then not delivered on the performance.
I almost feel like I would be motivated to go back into like taking an AI class just so I understand like
sure.
the underpinnings to each of the different AI fields.
Yeah.
So I'm having fun with it, and I use it in my business. So
I think we've honestly hit a turning point or a tipping point with this one. It is just, it's blowing me away with the context that it can add and the thoughtful responses that this model can give. I mean, that's what, and how you can fine tune it by continually like refining the outputs of it. You can have it write a poem or a song, or you can ask it to write a full program. I know some of the computer programs, they have issues, but it gives you a nice like templated spot to start. And that's where like I see a lot of people using this is like, it gives you a great starting point.
Here's how you'll get like religion on like what this can do. You say you give it some code and you're like, or you say like, receive an image, make a hash, and like do this output or whatever, and do it in C#. And you'll see it, you'll watch it write, and you're like, okay, now do the same thing in Python. Sure. And like, it'll literally just like change languages and accomplish the same thing. Like, you can't watch that without feeling some sense of like, this is intelligence.
Sure.
When it can take, this is what we did. So I sell a dinner bell on Amazon, and we're like, I was just showing it off. I was like, okay, write a blog about dinner bells, 1,000 word blog. I was like, okay, now do it in a Western voice. And dinner bells obviously fit on a farm. Sure. And you should have seen it took the same concepts and spoke to ranch hands and like said like when you're waiting for like the cows and this and then you got to do this, like I'm like there is just understanding there that it's impressive.
Yeah. And so that's some cool ways as Amazon sellers or just e-commerce sellers in general, or just general e-marketers, you can take copy that you already have, whether it's your product detail page, your bullet points, your website. You can copy that in and you can say, now rewrite this for person searching for this. Or you can describe the person that you're trying to market to. And it can help fine tune that description for you.
Yeah, this is an Amazon strategy that I've seen people take the same product and put different packaging on it and market to different people. Like, say it's an ashtray. You just do, okay, let's create an ashtray for outdoors. And then you just market to people that want an outdoor ashtray. Like, okay, ashtray for indoors. It's the same product, but like all your images, all your copy, all of that. And all of a sudden you are serving really well two different audiences.
Sure.
And your speed to go to market through AI is just faster.
Sure. Yeah. So anytime, any content that you're writing, headline-wise, bullet point-wise, product description-wise, website, like these are all great spots where you can definitely use it, even for items like if you've got customers who are sending you emails and they need a quick reply, you can copy in the text of the email and say, reply back to this customer that their return will be taken care of. You can use it as a basis. You're probably going to have to fine-tune some items, but there's just so many different ways anytime you're thinking of content that you need to write. And then it's just kind of perfecting like how you input the prompts and what you can really do, and just kind of unlocking like, how can I interact with this? It's kind of learning like all the ways that you can fully leverage it.
Yeah. It's a fun time. Who knows where it goes, but it's already arrived somewhere.
Yeah. So one other item I want to talk to you about too is like general market research on Amazon. As we're digging into the data and software side, like we have a lot of clients that are really interested in like general market share, or understanding what their competition's doing. Like kind of walk me through like market research, like what's the industry look like? Like what kind of options do people have?
So to answer your client's question, it's an expensive answer.
Sure.
In general.
Sure.
It's an industry I don't think most Amazon sellers know about, or would even know about like the multitude of solutions out there. But everyone knows Jungle Scout Helium 10. They kind of like pioneered like product research. You could find products and they'll show you, like if you use the Chrome extension, like it's just really good at like. Whereas when you're thinking of like market research, I always feel like you're taking a step back.
Sure.
You're like, okay, this is what the product is doing, but what about the brand? What about their collection of 200 products? What categories do they line up in, and what's their market share in each of those categories?
Sure.
That's what I think of like market research, and it's a $100 million business. Some of these tools, I'll rattle them off as I do. SmartScout does compete with them. We're a different type of solution for some sellers, but like I do have respect for like just the industry watching it evolve. Helium 10 actually just launched their Market Tracker 360, so it's a very new tool. Doesn't have as many features as the ones that have been around for a little bit longer. Jungle Scout Cobalt was around about 2 years ago, and those tools are going to cost you tens of thousands a year. If you want to go in the category of $100,000 a year, you get into the enterprise like Stackline, Edge by Essential.
Sure.
It's just a really interesting space because brands and Amazon sellers want to like really know, hey, my sales went down. Did that just affect me, or did that affect everyone?
Sure.
And nothing's more powerful than seeing like market share over time. If you need to tell a story, if you need to impress your investors that like, hey, we're on target, these tools. They can answer that in a great way, and
yeah, it really helps to answer that question on, all right, if sales went way up, or sales dropped, like, is this a competition issue? Is this a personal issue, or is this more of a market trend issue? And then I think other answers, like on the advertising side, where I've seen clients we work with use it, is, okay, what does it look like my clients are investing, say, in their marketing? And where do I have to set my marketing budgets to compete and maintain my market share? Because if my competitors are constantly out investing me on advertising, I could lose market share over time, and maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Like, those are the type of things that I see a lot of people using, especially as you start to get like higher up into like the very high volume sellers.
Yeah. So there's Amazon's advertising tells you a lot about your own data. Like, were you on the top of search, or were you on how competitive are your ads?
Sure.
And so these tools can like tell you your competitors. So it's one thing to know your own market and advertising strategy. It's another to like see your competitors, and that's something that SmartScout and other tools do provide.
Sure. Yeah. Any other ways that you see people using these different market analysis tools?
Well, they also have an SEO component to it, like to know what keywords.
Sure.
You can download your competitor's playbook and like find like how they think about their marketing. You could be like, oh, this is an opportunity for us, and start to advertise on that.
Sure.
So with it, like just like gaps don't really happen, and so advertising is obviously one of the biggest like reactions to learning about market research. Another is just to know opportunities, to look at segments, and like actually you see this a lot in supplements brands. Supplements, often there's a lot of adjacent categories that are close to what they do or do well, and I think you're going to want to know a market. You're going to want to use a market research tool to explore those opportunities.
Sure.
And to see like, oh, is this actually worth their money? If it is, how much money do we have to like invest to like make a dent? And so, yeah, those are some of the use cases.
Yeah, I love it. So we'll kind of wrap up. I mean, just as key takeaways. So one, feel like AI has definitely made a key breakthrough. And so if you haven't checked out like ChatGPT yet, check that out. You can go to chat.openai.com. Super cool product. And anytime you're writing out any content, I would test it out and see how you can utilize it. So check that out. And then for market research tools too, can be a great tool to utilize, whether you're making business decisions, looking at expanding into different segments. Scott, if people want to check out like you or SmartScout, like where should they go?
So, you know what? I think my best contribution is through a newsletter that I write every week. A lot of people read the newsletter that don't use SmartScout, but I think if you just Google SmartScout newsletter, you can sign up. And I have a lot of fun writing it. I write a lot about just the industry, like if there's acquisitions, new tools. I highlight a lot of people that are just not just doing cool things and how it relates back to us. So you can do that or follow me on LinkedIn. I'm widely available.
Sounds good. Yeah. Are you going to be at Prosper?
Yeah, for sure. We'll be there.
Sweet. Yep. So we'll be there too. We'll have a booth. So if you're going to the Prosper show too, make sure you stop by, talk to Scott, talk to me. Yeah. Well, awesome. Scott, I really appreciate you joining the podcast. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. And for all those listening, as always, really appreciate you listening to the Ad Project podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.